Hi, thank you so much for joining me for the acronym explanation series. My name is Jen, and I'm on a healing journey breaking free from the destructive patterns of disordered eating and embracing a nourishing lifestyle. I am using an original acronym of the word Nourisher to help guide my healing process. And in this series, I'm going to take a deep dive into each of the letters of the Nourisher acronym in order to explain it to you further. So thank you for joining me, and let's dig in. Hi, thank you so much for joining me as we unpack the letter E in our Nourisher check-in, and we look at this critical element of exercise. Now, exercise has so much to offer our physical bodies, our minds, our souls, and yet maybe similarly to eating and hydration, it is not so simple when it comes to helping us recover from patterns of disordered eating. So the list of how exercise can benefit us is very, very impressive. If you look at this simple list of just some of the top 10 things that we can benefit from doing daily physical exercise, it can help us to improve our memory and our brain function, help protect us against many chronic diseases, aid in weight management, lower our blood pressure, and improve our overall heart health. It can improve our quality of sleep, and we all know how important sleep is in so many vital areas. Reduce feelings of anxiety and depression. That's where it's talking about how it can enhance our mood, and it can combat cancer-related fatigue and just fatigue in general, and it can improve joint pain and stiffness. And so there are, and that's just so, I'm sure that we could have looked at the top 100 benefits of exercise, but it can do really wonderful, wonderful things. And yet, exercise can be used to either as a nourishing tool that can provide wonderful social and physical, and for me, even spiritual, and then for sure emotional benefits, or it can be used as a tool to help maintain an eating disorder. When we get into these destructive patterns of being obsessed or driven by weight, body image, food-related things, and we start to see ourselves in distorted ways, we can actually start to use exercise as a tool to help to maintain the restricting part of the cycle. It can be used also as a way of repressing our emotions, and it can keep us away from opening up the raw and yet maybe painful yet beautiful aspects that are in our hearts, help prevent us from sharing those with others. So it is very, very critical that we are very mindful, meaning very aware of what is happening us on an emotional level, in our thoughts, and what is happening with our bodies. Before we exercise, what are our motivations for exercise, while we are exercising, and then how we are just thinking about exercise in our daily lives. This is really critical for me. What I find is that I can either go for exercise as enjoyment, as a release, as a time to process, it just can be a huge time of joy for me, especially if I exercise in nature. It just makes me feel so good inside, and it helps build my energy levels, helps me keep up to my kids, and exercise can be so great. But it also can be that if I'm in this pattern of being obsessed with body image and comparing, and I see myself in the mirror and I am in this guilt and shame, when we think about the cycle, it can push me. It can be the tool that I use to restrict. Oh, I'm going to skip lunch and I'm going to go and exercise instead. And I can also exercise harder than is helpful for my body. I try to, in order to be nourishing for my body, I need to personally exercise in a way that is gentle. Remember when we were talking about noticing our emotions, and what can happen is because of the way that our brains have been wired, we can have an overactive amygdala or an overactive kind of guard shack that's always scanning for always on alert and always scanning for threat. And what can happen is, of course, if our brain, if our amygdala does peg something as bad or scary, it sends adrenaline through our systems. So for some of us, we have a lot of adrenaline pumping through our systems all the time. And then to go and then to really exert our bodies in exercise that causes it to have greater adrenaline, we can get into, which is, I'm not a doctor, and I know the Mayo Clinic, it's not actually a medical, it's listed as, isn't an accepted medical diagnosis, and yet is this collective of non-specific symptoms, including body aches, fatigue, nervousness, sleep disturbances, digestive problems, that all has been labeled, and that many health practitioners would call adrenal gland fatigue, when we've just fatigued our adrenal glands from being on this state of hyper alert so much. So for me, I need to really be cautious not to be throwing myself through exercise into a greater strain on my adrenal glands, but rather be comforting and nourishing to my adrenal glands and to my whole body by having moderate exercise outside. So for me, for exercise, I watched this great, I'll put it in the comments below. It's a great little video by Dr. Mike Evans, who it's called 24 and a half hours, and it basically talks about the fact that the incredible benefits of walking for 30 minutes a day, and the incredible amount of health benefits that even that type of gentle exercise that you can enjoy because of that was really motivating for me to make walking a critical part of my day. But perhaps you have a social way of getting exercise, which would be so great to be able to, I often take a friend, if you've been listening to my Nourisher check-ins, I often call a friend or walk with a friend, and that is a wonderful way to have some social time, and maybe to even incorporate some of the opening up to others into our times of exercise. So we need to be aware of our minds, our thoughts, our bodies, our emotions as we are going preparing to exercise, and as we are actually exercising. We want to stop if we feel any physical pain, or if it's stirring up something emotionally, and if possible, if we're noticing that exercise is a place that we really get stuck, that it's a part of our cycle that really we get stuck in restricting, or we feel like we're binging on, we want to reach out to a healthcare professional, or counselor, a psychologist who can help us work through that. So I hope and I pray that we can find exercise as a source of joy and as a nourishing component in our healing journey.